we got to jump into today's session. This is going to be an amazing one. We have two amazing legends amongst us right now, one of which just took their event technology company to the stratosphere. The other guy, just like, have you ever heard of Julius? You're going to get mind blown right now. So I don't want to do a long introduction because these guys got so much good stuff, some amazing hacks for you guys to take your events to the next level. Let's hear the loudest you can get for Joe and Julius. Let's welcome them to the stage.
First of all, what I just heard, Julius, with the word legends, I think we just got called old, is what I heard.
That's what you get called
Yeah.
in the industry. That's how it happens.
Yeah. All right, so a little quick background. First of all, nobody needs to introduce Julius, but maybe I'm new to some of you. As noted, I've been in the event tech industry for about 12 years. Had the pleasure of combining a whole bunch of companies together recently called Stova. We're an end-to-end provider, and I lead innovation. And I do a lot of talking with people like Julius to understand and customers like yourself on how we bring those into the products. So today, really, honestly, I wanted to bring somebody on that has nuggets every single day of what's going on in event technology and how can we walk away with some learnings. So not to put you on the spot, Julius, but I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions.
I thought I was brought in to actually ask you questions.
No.
Let's see what happens with this.
I'm supposed to coast, and you're on the hot seat.
Okay, all right.
All right.
We'll make it happen for you guys. And please do enter the 7-digit codes to ask questions. Like if we can bring up the QR code back up, I think it's going to be good if you want to ask questions to Joe specifically because, Joe, what a year. I mean,
Oh, yes.
Stova for, we get excited. We're Event Tech Live. Finally, we're allowed to geek out on technology. It's usually during, regular event industry shows. We're like usually the geeks in a corner. Like right now, finally, we can go deep. And, this is like one of the biggest years in terms of acquisitions that we've seen in the events industry.
Yeah.
Just in the recent month alone, we've had 4 different acquisitions in event technology, Cvent, we had Field Drive, we had SpotMe, yesterday another smaller one, and more coming on the way. So what a year has been for Stova, acquisition spree. Tell us more about that. How is it going with that?
Well, I think first, what a year for 18 months for the industry, right? I mean, where we were 18 months ago to where we are today is a completely different world. And for all of you with your meeting planner hats on, I think you're feeling it, right? There is a change in the industry. There's a totally different ball game of what we're dealing with. So related to the question around the acquisition, I think, first of all, we wanted to be where our customers were, and we wanted to be more of that along the ride with you. The beauty of when we brought these 3 companies together is that now, through great agencies that we work with and through great partners, we're part of the world's largest events, right? We call those tier 1 events. And we wanted to be just as good in the tier 1 space as we are in a boardroom with 12 people and keep all of that data, because I'm sure you'll talk a lot about it, but the data collected at 400,000 people at an event is just as important as the 12 people in a boardroom. And that's kind of where we moved as part of the acquisitions. And again, that's where the industry is moving. There's a lot of consolidation. I think both of us will probably agree there's a whole lot more consolidation that's coming, which is why it's important to work with a solid vendor moving forward.
And I'm sure this is not it. I guess we'll talk about, you're going and some of the companies here probably going to become part of the family going forward. Is that it? Or you thinking about buying more?
I think that we see a lot of opportunity in the industry to provide more services to our customers, like every other major company. So I think the great thing is that our leadership team is behind this. So the answer to the question, yes, we're doubling our investment in our products, and some of that will come through acquisitions, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is exciting times. How's the integration part going? Is it challenging? It's like we're talking about 3 companies together. I mean, I'm sure you're glad not to be called Eventry, Meeting Play, and what was the other one? I forgot.
Meeting Play, I think.
Meeting Play, Eventry,
Eventcore.
Eventcore.
Yeah.
So it was like 3-name brand. Now it's finally
that
Stova.
That was the worst name for 6 months. Absolutely.
Oh my God. But
Yeah.
now it's standing ovation, right?
Yeah, Stova. So the first 12 months were about getting that integration underway, and then and where we are right now is delighting our customers. So, but you know what? Let's move on, because I promised everybody we were going to talk about what nuggets can we move away with. So, related to the topic today, what were the key success and challenges from last year events, and what changed that we need to be aware of for 2023?
Oh my God. I think we need a couple
Can
of
you do that
hours
in
for
15
this.
minutes?
Yeah, oh my God. There's so much going on, right? So first off, obviously, having been directly involved with Hopin and, with other event companies over the, 2021, I think by the beginning of 2021, maybe end of 2021 for sure, the demise of virtual was very, very clear, right? Not at least to the levels of 2020. That was like a false environment, like a fake environment, obviously, in terms of demand that probably won't see again for a long time. But it's going to come back in some way, shape, or form, right? So that's interesting to witness. And obviously, all the big companies that got tremendous valuation during that time have been severely impacted by that. But at the same time, we've seen $4 billion acquisition of Cvent. You guys like buying a ton of companies and creating probably the biggest competitor to Cvent right now. So the implications for the industry are incredible, and that's driven by the comeback to in-person. Yeah. So whenever everybody was talking about the virtual events being the Napster moment for the event industry, I was like, not too sure about that, to be honest, because like people want to meet in person. This is like not going to go anywhere, and so I was forecasting that we would go back with what I called revenge attending. This is May 2020, but I couldn't foresee this level. Yeah. I couldn't foresee this level of demand. I mean, most of the trade show companies are announcing their biggest year in 70 years, 80 years. So that demand for in-person is unprecedented and incredible.
Yeah. So here's our learning, and I'm going to give an example of a customer that we work with. This pendulum shift that we had talked about last year, they actually scoped half of their virtual because they didn't want the virtual. There was a thought within the company that virtual would cannibalize their on-property. And a learning that we took away from that was that that fear was kind of taken away by the on-property attendance, which was the largest that they have ever seen. I think they blew their 2019 numbers by 20%. So there was, and this is a major tech company, I think that they were doing some testing, really. Let's pull back on this hybrid experience. Let's put more into the on-property, and let's scale and see what the result is going to be. And the beauty was, we still had 300,000 people globally on the virtual side, and more than 60,000 people on property. Now that we're seeing them want to go back and say, okay, we can have a successful hybrid event and not cannibalize our on-property. We are seeing more of our customers, to your point, the demise of virtual, but critique their marketing strategy, which is another key takeaway that I want to talk about, the CMO in the room, with both strategies to get that breadth, but really focus on the in-person as well.
I also think we're witnessing a fundamental change in the business model of events, where content is becoming sort of the protagonist, in a sense, whatever the format that we use. You see the cameras around here, yeah. Right? So that's probably the biggest change that we're going to see, because now we have the tools, whether it's video to record. I think one of the biggest contribution of virtual events was the democratization of virtual production tools. Yeah. Specifically, they are now available to everybody, and everybody can go out and create easy streams for their content. But like how the content that is produced at events, which has usually been the biggest waste that we have at events, before the environmental waste that events generate, the content waste is incredible, because we're creating something here that is just for these people, but potentially can reach way more people. And now I feel we have the tools with AI as well, right, to make sense of all of that content, to repurpose it for marketing purposes or for revenue purposes, if the content is really good, obviously.
I think you've highlighted, at least for us, another what we learned in 21 and 22 that we're bringing into 23, and that is actually artificial intelligence. So I do want to bring that up because I think it's going to be a part of the conversation for everybody moving forward, right? With the introduction of ChatGPT and what that brings, there's this, in my opinion, there's really two definitions of AI today. Do you have any examples of what we've learned in the past and how we're going to see that executed in 23?
Listen, I think like in probably 2 years' time, mark my words, we're probably going to see half of the companies here if they don't adopt AI intensively in their product.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a carnage in event technology, which is traditionally a very user unfriendly, very hard to understand type of technology for a reason, right? Because events are really complex.
Yeah.
But like what ChatGPT is showing the world is that you can take 1 million points of information and make it extremely simple for people to just have a declarative approach, as they call it. So tell me who are the most engaged people in my event. Boom, you have a report generated without going through 15 screens and having to call up support to get someone to help you maybe finding the data that you need. So that's going to be a groundbreaking revolution, I feel, in events. And it's going to be AI or die. You can quote me on that because it's going to be essentially what we're going to witness in the event market.
Well, let me tell you why I think that is an accurate statement. So I meet with a lot of CMOs and heads of meeting planning in my position. What a trend that I'm seeing that I'm sure a lot of you are feeling right now is in an enterprise environment where the meeting events department under marketing used to be 10 people, it's 3. I've seen a massive scale back, which is unfortunate, but I'm seeing massive scale back in people, right? And I'm also being introduced to a lot of new people to the organization. So one of the things that I believe and why I do stand behind those comments is where you see AI really becoming a news line, it is around efficiency. It's around doing more with less and allowing the technology to think for you. So, the fact that we have contracting, thought leadership in a major enterprise, you do need tools to supplement that.
So it's AI or die. What's Stova going to do about it? Are you going to implement it? Or are you going to show us something? Like, are you going to give us a sneak peek in terms of what you're thinking when it gets to AI and your product specifically? It's like, you're the perfect example. 3 different companies coming together, different tech infrastructures. Yeah, AI to the rescue to make it easy for everybody involved in this.
Yeah, so thank you for putting me on the spot. I appreciate that.
That's my role.
That's awesome. I think to the point, we absolutely realize the benefits of artificial intelligence. Part of the division that I was part of during the pandemic in the virtual environment, working with these tier 1, 40, 50, 60,000 people, artificial intelligence was weaved into everything that we were doing. We have the benefit at Stova around this and the backing of the new product that's coming out. So our company from a headcount perspective is growing, not declining, and a lot of that is happening in products and in development. And I will tell you that there are multiple paths around AI and how we can be very impactful. And again, we're taking best practices. In fact, the first time you and I ever spoke on a summit, I used the example of I have 2 daughters. And when I knew things were changing in the technology world related with Alexa, was I would come home and they would be talking to a box to play music so they can do their dance practice. That's a fundamental change that we've seen interweaved into younger generations and how they work. And I do believe that is what AI is bringing to the table. It is in everything that's going on. Microsoft is all in. If you've seen the videos of what you're going to be able to do with Microsoft by uploading an Excel document and say, write my boss an email to highlight what's in this document, it's mind-blowing. Once this becomes norm, there will be an expectation that kind of technology and efficiency is built in everything that's going on here.
Joe is a master of dodging questions here.
Yeah.
So no sneak peek. Like, are you thinking about some? I have to put my editor cap on here. Are you thinking about some lab applications within Stova? Is it the marketing? Just the category of it. Is it the marketing? Is it the operations? What are you looking at?
It's in both.
Give us something here. We're Eventec Live.
Okay, it's in both. The first is we will be the first company to roll out an enterprise data strategy where every click and every duration goes into a data warehouse of our customers.
Let's go.
That is the starting of what we're bringing from a data perspective for the CMO to drive insights. And then around operations, you do all of your events in the platform. You do the same event that you did last year. Why should you start from scratch, right?
Yeah.
So thinking about how you take those insights from the data to input what you're going to do this year based on last year, that's the efficiency that we want to bring our meeting planners.
I have a follow-up question to that because whenever we say the D word, like everybody starts to panic in the events industry. Like, the attention levels go down and everybody start collapsing on the floor because you said data. And like literally, like since I joined the events industry almost 20 years ago now, talking about event technology, we've been talking about the power of data and whatever. Like zero application whatsoever other than a report of sorts, like nice looking pies. Is this conversation changing right now with your clients? Are you getting better feedback? Are we coming to grasp with the fact as an industry that we actually do need data because otherwise we can't scale? Obviously, you work with tier one events.
Yeah.
So, you kind of have to do it. Like, are you seeing a change of perception in this stage? I know this is off script, but
yeah, no, but it's a good conversation because as everybody sits here, especially in the economical headwinds that we have right now, ROI has never been more important. And I'm sure all of your budgets on property with $700 coffee because you've increased, your attendance counts. Every bit of ROI is important. So to answer your question, we went from virtual where we were drinking from a fire hose of data, right? And we did a pretty good job. Shifted to on-site to our legacy tools that weren't necessarily set up, lost a lot of that data. What we have found, especially with 3 companies under one umbrella, is we don't always have the answer to the data question, okay? So what better strategy than to put the tools in the hands of our customers? We also work with every major technology company out there, right? They all have proprietary tools. So when we bring out tools, that might not be a good fit for them. So when you look at data privacy, and by the way, the laws are going to get even more stringent over the next couple of months to years, what better strategy than to say, customer, we're going to put this in an area where you own it, right? If Joe or Stova gets hit by a bus in 6 months, you still own that data. And you need to derive your own insights from that data. We're not going to be the hurdles from doing that. Now, we're going to provide tools to make it easy, right? But we don't want to be a hurdle to our customers owning and leveraging insights from that data.
yeah, and people like it. People are getting it finally.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's reassuring.
Okay.
Okay. So what's next?
Well, I feel like I'm in, you switched the roles on me, right? So for me, one of the big struggles that our customers keep on coming to us with is we have a 16-week registration period, and 50% of the registrants are still coming within that 4-week period. So, question for you: what preventative measures in the tier 1 space or not can meeting planners be prepared with to combat that? Or how do we flip what best practices are you seeing to flip the script there?
Yeah, I mean, it is almost, it is crazy out there what is happening with the numbers. I think we all agree that people are registering, 3 weeks before the show. This is becoming the norm. I had a client who got 40% of registration for their event 3 weeks before the show. This is like crazy. Like, how do you handle that on logistics? I guess the whole business model of events, right, needs revision. It's like the early birds, all of that marketing effort that we used to do. It's kind of like, people are deciding last minute, impulse decision. It's almost like comparable to booking a holiday and going somewhere. I think we're being sucked into the hospitality part of events. This is why a lot of events are transitioning also into offering more sort of activations, experiences type
Yeah.
of activation around those events. But what can you do about it? I mean, it's constant communication. I had a client that got, free event, large trade shows, 15,000 people that, essentially had 40% no-show rate of those late registrations. So pretty high. And how do you deal with that? Yeah, constant communication. That was like the issue that we identified. Zero communication on the lead up to the event.
Yeah.
Zero emails, zero check-ins, zero data points in terms of saying, have these people opened an email in the last year or so? Why are we supposed to know that if they're going to come to the event or not?
Yeah.
So being strategic about the marketing piece, being proactive, talking to people right now is very important from an event standpoint. It's part of the customer service. That you got to go out there and talk to them and be proactive and intentional about it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a pretty messed up environment. It's really tough to adapt to these type of new trends that we're seeing.
Yeah. One of the best practices that I found with one of our customers, we work with Marriott. Now, can you think of another company that really wants everybody to be there face to face in a hotel? But they absolutely still acknowledge, right, the benefits of the message going wider, right? It was probably one of the best examples of a hybrid event that I've ever seen. And what they did, they were very strategic, is they did not advertise the virtual component at all. And they used it more as a contingency plan rather than part of the plan from the get-go. So, they were successful in getting 70% of the folks on property. And only in the last 2 weeks did they offer it as an alternative that you can't be here, but look, we have something for you, right? And the result of that was very much like that tech customer that I talked about last year, was the 70% of the people that were there had a great experience. Everything was cataloged and recorded, and all those assets lived on. But then the live audience grew beyond their expectations. So ultimately, when Marriott looked at the ROI of that event, it actually exceeded expectations. But it was a strategy knowing that, a corporate planner that's very busy, given the option, they may go one direction versus the other. And a lot of these, where we're seeing this contraction, is in advertising both up front, right? So something to say is that I like this hybrid as a contingency rather than at the forefront for some of these events where that might work towards helping that.
So we have 5 minutes left, time for questions. Do we have any questions on the screen? I can see them. If not, this is the QR code if you want to ask any questions. Also, I guess there's a conversation here to be had, Joe, on different verticals. And, I know tech events at the moment are being hammered like 100%. It's very difficult in the technology space because of layoffs and, depression that is happening in technology. Trade shows are exploding on the other end.
Yeah.
Do you see this sort of completely different type of indicators in different verticals for your clients, or is it a positive pattern overall?
Honestly, we're seeing it across all. I can tell you 5 associations that we work with that are dealing with the same struggles of the tech companies. So although the news is in the tech industry of all of the layoffs, the contraction of that in the tech industry is felt downstream, right? So I honestly believe it's across all of our customers right now. There's not one specific.
Interesting. Do we have any questions, Will, from the audience?
Yeah, actually we do. So Karen was awesome enough to get her question, I think, in early. So we're going to give Karen some love. Karen asks, what are 3 ways planners can repurpose content after an event?
Can I flip that into a question?
Yeah.
Because you were really, really big on community.
Yeah.
So let's take this question. Are you seeing the repurposing of this content on how it was meant to build a community in your world?
Well, I mean, content is the first touch point of community. Without the content, you can't have community around it. It's the easiest way of creating community without having a community manager.
Yeah.
It's like where most event fails is like in their community attempt. There's kind of like what Gary Vee calls half pregnant type of attempts. It's like they're not happening in terms of, full intentional decision to do community. You can't just put a group of people together and expect the magic to happen. That needs to be pushed again and again. And so content is the soft version of it. And I feel if you have a constant stream of content through the years, I just tweeted yesterday, I've seen some shows that I'm going to attend in the next 4 months that all of a sudden they came out of hibernation, right? What happened? They went to sleep for the winter, and all of a sudden the spring is out and the social media account is back. Wow, what were you doing? And I was just saying, like, you have a friend and we're talking to each other, and all of a sudden I disappear for 6 months, and I call you back, and I'm like, oh, should we go to dinner together? I'm like, why are you even here to begin with? So I feel we fail again and again as events to fully grasp what it means, even when it's for marketing. I'm not even saying for, pure value delivery. So there's a long way to go, for sure.
Now, Karen, let me answer what I'm seeing from my perspective. Absolutely, we are seeing a lot of content catalog creation. Here's the interesting thing that I'll tell you, is that we're seeing more of that being used on internal proprietary tools of the organizations that we work with than leveraging the technology that we bring to the table, which is totally fine, right? We capture it live, we may capture it for a day after, but I'm seeing 80% of that content, and that's why I asked the community question, go back onto their proprietary marketing tools. Another question?
I love it. That's like all my jam right now, for sure. Yeah, great question.
You should come on stage, Will.
I want to come and join you guys. Okay, so Patrick, and by the way, real quick for everyone out here, scan the QR code, get your questions in. Like, you literally get these two for the next, we have 10 minutes left or so. So we got a little bit of time. But ask these guys questions because they're very busy and they're here for you right now. So get those questions in. All right, Patrick asks, what do you do when the opportunity to capture event data doesn't match the client's internal systems? Dun, dun, dun.
Joe?
So that is a very good question. And what I find is even, for example, our integrations with Marketo and Salesforce, they're horrible, right? Because everybody has their own instance of Salesforce. I'm looking at Todd because he's lived in this world forever, right? They have their own way of doing things, right? And matching them up together. And that's actually one of the strategies of why we put it into a data warehouse, is because the beauty of bringing it into what's called a data warehouse is it has keys associated with it. And what I call it and what we put it in there makes no difference on the way that you pull it into those tools. You get to custom cater the way that things are happening there. And that's ultimately flexibility is where, you have to be. In the tier one space where I spend a lot of my time is flexibility and customization. Customization equals cost, right? So even this data strategy is a way for us to cut costs for our customers and give them ultimate levels of flexibility.
I want to add to that. One of the fastest growing segments in the event industry right now is actually companies that provide analytics to customers. Like, they just do that. And they're growing super fast, hiring aggressively. So there's definitely something happening here. There's a disconnect in terms of the communication piece that we do as agencies, because I assume we're talking about clients here. So it's going to be an agency question. And fully communicating the benefit of the analysis that you do as an agency and the value of it. Maybe you've sent 2-3 reports that weren't really literally actionable. There are very specific agencies that know how to take that data and make it extremely stupid simple for everybody to understand, and actually connect with that data and tell the boss, listen, this is the result of our program. It's like the era of events being intangible. How do you measure events? That's done. That was like 2010s. We're in 2020s now. It's a new word. We have to wake up. I was telling yesterday, let's stop saying we're at 2019 levels. We're at 2023 levels. This is going to be bigger than 2019. And it's completely different from what we've seen before. So this is the time, right? To make the data conversation happen.
I thought of one more thing, and it goes back to the implications of what's going to happen with GDPR. California has a new law coming out. Another benefit of moving in this strategy is, in America, you may be able to pull a report that has all of the metadata of the attendees, but in Europe, you can't, right? So if you have one system that says, well, you can't do it in Europe, so you're not going to be able to do it in the United States, there's a big disconnect there, right? So allowing where the data is being pulled and the specifics of that is another example of that question.
Do you see any tools in marketing right now that are like kind of, you're keeping an eye on, like stuff like that?
I would name them by name, but they're going to compete with our strategy moving
Ooh.
forward. So
Burn.
that's part of the
Okay.
secret sauce. We'll talk later.
Sounds good. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, we got a couple more questions. Keep them coming in,
Keep them
everybody.
calm. Don't stop me at the end of this and try to talk to me, right? Because I see what you're doing here. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to him after this. I'm not going to stop.
I like that
I'm going to
strategy.
lunch after this. I'm telling you, I'm busy. So ask the question now.
I love it. I love it. I need to start doing that too. So Rodney, thanks so much for asking the question. Well, Patrick, thank you for asking that last question. That was a good one. But Rodney's like right on point. You guys are talking about ROI, and Rodney asks, when it comes to measuring ROI, everybody's favorite thing right now, what are you seeing in particular strategies to actually measure the specific impact of an event on their business?
Yeah, so the biggest one, again, was a learning that we took out of. So, first of all, you can't say ROI without talking to who our customer has been recently. And I want to address that first. And again, I've been running, I ran a company for 12 years. Our customer was typically that director of event planning, that, senior manager. I have never spoken to more CMOs, CEOs of massive 100,000 employee companies than in the last 2 or 3 years. And it directly relates to this ROI question. So an example that came out of the pandemic that really helped our data story and closed many deals was every company has a Salesforce persona of Todd. Todd's in event technology. The last thing that Todd did was a tier 1 event, and he's focused on events of 40,000 and more. But what we found when Todd came to our event was that Todd met with X, Y, and Z vendors that don't play in that tier 1 space. How do I market to Todd afterwards in a better way to increase the ROI? That was kind of the silver, that was the light bulb across what we were able to do for our customers. Everything is about personalization and targeting. We were targeting the wrong people based upon what we thought, right? Instead, we flipped that story to, here's what you think that you know about Todd, and here's that subset, and here's where you have it wrong. And again, that goes into that data story that we're trying to build.
Which makes me think about something. Like, I think one of the most dramatic changes that we've had since the pandemic is that pre-pandemic, we would go to a show to see people talk. Like, the content element was probably prominent as one of the main attractors. The keynote speakers, even like in trade shows, there was a clear trend in having more opportunities for content. I feel right now, in this moment that we're living in a macroeconomic environment, closing business and having networking opportunities, structured networking opportunities, is going to be extremely tied to the ability of any show, whatever type of business event, obviously not weddings, but any type of business events you do, to close business. And so how the technology is going to help us to make that experience predictable, which is, again, we're going back to in-person events because of the serendipity of meeting someone in the hallways. This is like downplaying the role of event planners, I feel, which have the role of connecting people. And so this has to be predictable. This cannot be left to the chance of meeting someone. What about the introverts? How are they going to connect? What about those not drinking alcohol as a social lubricant to meet with other people? So there's like all these issues that we kind of repress during the pandemic are going to come up back again because they were pressing issues before the pandemic. And so technology has a big role in making, because they failed miserably during virtual events. I mean, we all can connect to the fact that, yes, we were watching content, but we weren't connecting with anybody during virtual events. I mean, yes, maybe in some platforms it was fun at the beginning, but the virtual booths and virtual networking areas were a major fail. And so it's not that in-person events were doing much better. So what's your take on the role of tech to actually give us the boss? This is the number of meetings we've done. This is the number of people we connected.
Yeah, so as somebody here, as part of that ecosystem, I can tell you, if you look at IMAX and where we were today and the message of the importance of, hey, we're here to get our message out. But ultimately, I mean, let's be real. At the end of the day, we're looking to convert those conversations into actual business, right? And even from IMAX to today, there is so much more focus on granular data and granular, how are these conversations making their way into the pipeline? So to answer the question though, that goes back to it, I go back to something that I said 15, 20 minutes ago. Every department that we are working with across all of our verticals, tech, association, where there was 10, there are 3, okay? So the answer to your question, Julius, is if we can tell that story for the planner, it benefits all of us, right? They will want more tech because it was a part of the solution, right? We have, as event technology providers, we have to be a part of that solution of giving them more, giving them less. And data, no, what CMO have you ever met debates a spreadsheet with graphs on it, right? None. So you have to stand behind that and that will work for you.
Totally get it. Do you have more questions?
Well, Rodney, thank you so much for that question. You're awesome. Also, shouts to Joe and Sean in the chat who are like my cheerleaders right now. Thank you guys for being my spirit animals.
Where's Sean? Is Sean here?
No, he's virtual.
Oh.
Yeah, we got a couple virtual people hanging out too. So gotta give him some love. Which, by the way, if you're watching virtually and you're not in the chat, you need to say something. Well, there's no other questions, so Will Kern gets to ask a question. So what?
I have questions for you.
Oh, well, you're gonna have to come find me afterwards.
Okay, fine.
So my question for you guys: what's the one thing in the industry that no one else is talking about, but you think that they need to be paying attention to, or that you think that people need to start talking about?
Go ahead, brother.
Oh, no. I know this is coming. So I feel like what I see in my sort of analysis of technology is that probably the vertical and the next acquisition for Stova is going to be
Now you stole. I was going to no, something different. That's mine. Go ahead.
So Stova's next acquisition is going to be in venue sourcing. I feel venue sourcing right now is essentially replacing what virtual events were, right? And so you see these companies are exploding, growing extremely quickly. There's like 3 companies that I know of raising Series B, Series A rounds and like getting a lot of money. So yeah, that's heating up. And this is why Cvent got acquired for $4 billion, because like they are very well rooted in the venue sourcing space, which is eating. I mean, you see the venues, everybody's rampant again. And like everything in Vegas is booked for the next 10 years. You know, you can't get a space even if you wanted to. I'm exaggerating, by the way, don't quote me on this. But yeah, I mean, it's super busy. I mean, we had literally 3 weeks ago, we had in the same week, we had, Shop Talk, we had HR Transform, we had Taylor Swift, Bruno Mars, all in the same week.
And,
Sting. So yeah, everybody's like, Vegas has had the biggest month, biggest February ever. Not like since pandemic, ever. So, this is happening here. Yeah. So yeah, venue source.
First of all,
right? Am I right?
God bless Reggie. Thank you very much. I mean, thanks for setting that bar, event. I'm going to take I was on the same line, but I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach that I think is going to hit with some of the planners out there. What nobody's talking about is the pain that I've actually seen over the last 4 months with some of these great companies that have folded. 2 or 3 months ago, I was on the other end of a major tech company that did virtual that collapsed, and basically massive events that are looking for solutions within 2 weeks. It felt like the pandemic all over again. It's like, we need a solution. So I don't think that there are people that are talking about that. And I do feel, well, I can actually tell you because we're on the other end of the conversations, there is more, unfortunately, of that will go on over the next couple of months, and if not a couple of years. So, I think that planners should be asking about profitability of their event tech providers, right? Like, it's actually a very important question. What does your runway look like if you're a small player? If there are 20 people that work at your company, that would be my first question. What is your security posture and what does your runway look like? Because I don't want to be on the other end of you closing doors and on Wednesday I have an event.
That's so amazing. Wow. Okay, so I could probably ask a million questions. We can be here probably for all day, but unfortunately, we are coming to the end of time. So, where can people find you? Where are you lately? Tell us where people can go.
Nobody's where this guy is, so I'll let him go first.
Yeah, just Julius Solaris on LinkedIn. That's the best way.
Julius's content on LinkedIn is amazing. He's like making graphics for every single one of his posts. He makes me look like I'm a slump over here, so he's killing
I try,
it.
man. I don't have weekends. That's how I spend my weekends, doing graphs.
So Will and I were talking about this. First of all, my job is not to sell anymore, which is the best thing that has ever happened to me. My job actually is to work with customers to adjust their strategy to put innovation and to answer that ROI question. So conversations with me are like conversations with Julius. What are you doing? What's not working? And how can you do things? And by the way, sometimes that's not even the stuff that we're selling, right? Like we look at a total ecosystem. So my job at Stova is I lead innovation. Really what I do is I work with customers on a daily basis. So I'd love to meet with anybody. I'm going to be over at the booth. If not, drop me an email, joe.schwinger@stova.io. And let's talk about not Stova. Let's talk about, your pain points and how there are things out there that you should be aware of and how we can put you in the right direction.
Amazing. All right, guys, we did a little bit of noise at the beginning, but that was not loud enough for how much knowledge they just distilled to everybody here and the trends that the industry is going to. So on 3, let's show these guys some love. Ready?
Let's go.
1, 2, 3. Woo! Louder! 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 Joe, Julius, you guys are amazing.
Thank you so
you guys
much.
so much.